man, Mr. Pete Greco. He is VP of Sales. He is VP of Technology. He has a voice that makes it look that he's been on rock and roll tour for the last 48 months. But nonetheless, he is going to talk about ARCserve and managed capacity. He's going to say, hey, why use 2 irons for 1 shirt? You'd never do it. Why would you consider using 2 recovery solutions for your data? You wouldn't. And in fact, here we are, CA ARCserve, it's iron strength recovery. If you've been to our events in the past, you know we are all about technology and less shucking and jiving. We do have one shuck and jive, which is meet productive in 1 minute, which I will do shortly. We have a couple poll questions, or one in particular about how much data you are managing to help us hone in that presentation. And then, much to everyone's satisfaction, we will turn the microphone and mouse over to Mr. Pete Greco, and he will dive right in. So if you're ready, buckle up. Let's find out who is Productive Corporation. Productive is a security and storage software reseller for mid-sized companies. We have dedicated account execs that have great knowledge, so you don't have to wait on hold or navigate the publisher yourself. We have a lot of these resources on our website. Custom demos, trial downloads, product FAQs, and product information, all of it can be found at productivecorp.com. We also have specialized information content around the mid-market, 2-minute tech guides, P-guides, product comparisons, industry kind of what's happening with endpoint. All of this stuff can be found at productivecorp.com/content. The bottom line is we have the resources to help you. Help at productivecorp.com, 800-726-4099. We are here to help. And one of the ways we help is by putting on these educational events for your benefit. We sell a lot of technology into the mid-market and have been selling a lot of storage and recovery solutions for many, many years. In fact, approaching 13 years. One of the things we found is you may see the product, you may hear about the product, but you might not know everything that is available for the product or what makes sense to you. So that's what started out our educational content series. And so with that, we're going to hop right in to ARCserve 16.5 Manage Capacity, right? And what Pete's going to talk to you about today is, what is managed capacity licensing, right? What's the overview and what's going on with D2D, as well as maybe some insight as to what's coming up. New release coming out in April, which will be pretty cute, pretty cool. Q&A throughout. Utilize that chat feature and ask a bunch of questions. We really enjoy it. So with that, I'm going to turn mouse and microphone over to Mr. Pete Greco. Pete, the floor is yours.
All right. Thanks so much. Thanks, everybody, for hopping on with us. Bear with me. I'm just getting over a nasty cold, so my voice is not quite as pristine as I typically like it to be. But I'll definitely do my best to do a great show for you guys if you promise to hang in there with me. So,
fantastic. So, Pete, I just launched that as you're going to start talking. So go ahead and answer that. How much data are you backing up? Less than a terabyte, 1 to 3, 3 to 5, more than 5. I don't know, but it's a lot. And Pete, go.
All right. So we're going to be talking about the ARCserve family of products. Todd alluded already about the Managed Capacity Program. It's a really neat way, I think, of licensing. A lot of folks out there probably would be more familiar if we use the phrase site license. What they're basically doing here, rather than really identifying each individual server that you have, what kind of OS, what applications are running on it, is it a SQL server, an Oracle server, is it Windows, is it Unix, blah, blah, blah. You're essentially getting an unlimited quantity of every single license, and then you can use the right licenses where you need them. So you've got some servers where really not super critical. If we went to last week's backup for recovery, that would be fine. Great. We'll put basic ARCserve backup on that. You've got some other servers that are more critical. We still need long-term storage solutions, but we also need to be able to recover from, an hour ago or 20 minutes ago if we had an outage. The data is that critical. There we're maybe talking about basic backup in addition to D2D, right? And then you've got some of those machines where that recovery time objective and recovery point objective are both at 0, and that's where we're looking at high availability, instant recovery. One machine goes down, a second machine is up to the second updated and ready to go live in an instant, right? You can get all that stuff with one license key, and the best deal there is to lock it in for 3 years. You buy it based on the capacity, and then you don't have to worry about chewing up for 3 years, and it's not retroactive. So if you start off today with a 3 terabyte license and you lock in for 3 years, when 3 years comes up, we'll ask you, how many terabytes are you at today? Well, today I'm at 5, so your renewal is for 5 terabytes moving forward. Don't need to go back and pay any past true-up or anything like that, and that's part of what really makes it a tremendous deal, especially when you lock in for that longer term. Who does it make sense for? This is really not for every single organization. The easiest way to kind of talk about it is if you have a high number of servers versus the ratio of the quantity of data, managed capacity is for you. If you have just one server that had 20 terabytes on it, this would not be the best way to acquire it. So how do you know? How do you know what's the best thing to do? Share a little bit about your environment with your productive rep, and they'll help you identify what's the best way to license all of these products and any of the products on our line card. All right, so let's talk a little bit more in detail about what we're actually going to be talking about. We mentioned high availability. We're not actually going to be showing high availability today, but if you have that need, let your productive rep know, and we can do a custom demo. And again, what the high availability is really great for is when that RTO, RPO is absolute 0. Can't experience any downtime at all. That's where we've got a hot spare, instantly image, so any changes that happen on that primary box happen immediately on that secondary box. If the primary goes down, the secondary will mask the identity, so it will essentially become that primary server and take over the environment. The end user community, the end user machines have no idea that there's been a change. You don't need to remap drives. You don't have to get folks to log out and log back in. You're essentially ready to roll. Now maybe you failed over because you just needed to add some more RAM onto that primary machine. Easy enough to do. You fail over, you make your hardware upgrade, replace that power supply, whatever it is that you needed to do. Now, while you're down for 20 minutes making this change, data obviously is changing on that failover machine now. So once you bring the primary machine back up, you basically re-image forward, so all the changes get moved to back to the primary machine, and then you transfer the credentials back over, and boom, you're back in that failover mode. Very easy to do, very easy to manage. Includes a great little feature called Assured Recovery, which helps you test it to make sure that it's working the way that you think it will be. So we're going to be a little bit more focused talking about the centralized management, the backup, and the D2D. And without any further ado, let's start looking at some software. Boop, here we go.
Pete?
Yeah.
As you start talking about this, just kind of let you know the poll. So, right, we have, 20% of the people on today are in this 1 to 3 terabytes backing up, another 20 about 3 to 5, and the last 60 are over 5 terabytes. So we have some people with some larger environments out there, just to give you a heads up.
Nice, nice. So, for the folks in those mid-size and large-size environments, that's typically where that managed capacity licensing is going to be a great asset for you, because you're going to have servers in all kinds of different criticality levels. And on some of these boxes, you're going to be wanting to do more than one thing, right? On some of those basic servers, that once-a-night backup, that's perfect, right? And then you've got some critical servers where you need high availability. and that's great too. But some of the machines are going to be kind of more in between. Last night's backup isn't quick enough, right? But high availability and a hot spare, a little out of the budget range to have that secondary piece of hardware, even if it's a virtual guest, right? And then that second Exchange server license or that second SQL license or whatever it is that you're running for that application might not be reasonable, and that's where D2D comes into play. And what we're looking at right here is the central standby manager for D2D, and in here we can deploy to as many machines as we want, and I'll show you another way of looking at this as well. Here's all my machines. Oh, got to resume. I had paused this for an earlier demo. Oh, didn't do that right. There we go. And I can push out one policy to multiple machines. I can group my machines in different ways. My policies are basically set up to take a snapshot off of the machine and then back up that snapshot. So different from your traditional backup that's typically backing up data as it lies on the disk, right? We're taking advantage of the VSS, and what that means is that the majority of the backup process is not monopolizing that system's resources. So you can do this periodically throughout the day without inhibiting that end user's ability to hit that data, get at their info, do that file sharing or whatever it is that they're using those servers for, right? So I can have multiple policies. I can push these out in mass. I can also custom configure each machine individually. Here I am on the console now for one of my machines, Foo Fighters, and I've got this machine set up for 8 recovery points. It backs up every 20 minutes. I can see how much disk space I'm using here. This is the disk space that my other D2D sessions are using. And this machine is a test machine, so there's actually not a whole lot of real data. Here's how much open space that I have. Here I can see when I did my last full, right? I've only done a full backup. This is infinite incrementals, so I never have to do another full backup, but I can schedule one to go. And here you can see a backup job just is starting to kick off here. And I've got it set at every 15 minutes. I think I said 20 minutes earlier.
So is there a time when you would have to really do a new full, or is that just, I mean, once you start, you're good?
Yeah, with D2D, it's infinite incrementals. So the only time I would do a new full backup is if I'd made some kind of significant change to that server. So we're getting ready to undergo a CRM, not just an upgrade, we're actually switching CRMs. And so in that scenario, when we actually go live with the new product, that's probably where I'd go ahead and do a new full backup, but you really don't need to. This is a newer technology, so it simply just is not written the way that some of the more traditional backup softwares are written. And what we're essentially doing here is after we create this current backup job, right? So in a minute, what we're actually going to see, Todd, is that we're going to have 9 out of 8 recovery points. What's going to happen for a brief second is we're going to have one more recovery point than what we've allocated for. And then what's going to happen is that oldest one, so job number 1 we'll call it, is going to get stuffed back into that original full. So essentially it's resynthesizing that full backup every single time a new job goes off. Now, I can go down to a minimum of every 15 minutes on this. If my backup job takes longer than 15 minutes to run, one of the things that I can do is schedule my merge jobs to happen in the off hours so that I'm not merging these individual points back into that full until the off hours, and that way I can actually make my backup window even tighter. So a lot of different options there. Down here, I can go back to previous backups, and I can go back to previous days. And depending on which server you're looking at, you'll see more or less days here, depending on how I've configured it. The next thing that's happening here is after this backup job completes, then I'm going to convert that bare metal recoverable backup file into an offline virtual machine. And so there, if I have an outage, rather than being down while I'm waiting for new hardware to come, or while I'm trying to figure out kind of what's going on with that box, I can spin up an offline virtual guest that is within my backup parameters. Now my recovery point objective is 15 minutes or more, configurable by me. My recovery time objective is the amount of time it takes me to boot up an off machine. So for Foo Fighters here and my other box, Audio Slave, both of these boxes turn on from an off state on a virtual host in about 3 minutes. So my recovery time is about 3 minutes. Now here, I'm backing up every 3 hours, so my data is going to be a maximum of 3 hours old. Here I'm backing up every 15 minutes, so my data is going to be a maximum of 15 minutes old. All custom configured by me. I can set it up any way I want. I can have one setting that I apply to all my machines. I can have each machine completely customized and anywhere in between. Works out pretty slick. So let's talk about a couple of things. Kind of making it sound like this is physical to virtual only. Not the case at all. So we're creating that BMR file. With that BMR, we can build a virtual machine, or we can recover it to similar hardware if we want to keep a machine as physical. Once I recover from my virtual session, and that works with VMware or Hyper-V or Hyper-V Shop, notice that 9 out of 8, like I was mentioning earlier, by the way, just waiting for that recovery point to happen now. So once I launch my offline virtual machine, that can become my new production machine. It's full identical copy of my original production server. So I can go physical to virtual. I can also go virtual to virtual. So with our email server, we have that virtualized. We basically use D2D to create an offline virtual machine on our other host. That way, if the whole host goes down, we can start up that session on our alternate host. Typically what we do is if we had a problem with that, we try and go to an earlier snapshot first. But if the whole host is down, all those snapshots are offline, right? So this gives me a nice little bit of redundancy. Super fast because it's D2D, as it explains. This is not going to drive tape. So what we do to get this data offsite is we take advantage of ARCserve backup. There we go. We take advantage of ARCserve backup, and we actually back up the disk-based location of our D2D backups onto removable media. Once we have them on there, we can still use ARCserve to navigate through those and do individual file recovery. Not every recovery needs to be a full bare metal restore or fire up the offline virtual machine. Sometimes we're just missing a file or an email or a folder or whatever. We're trying to see an earlier version of something. So it's not always, right, a total full disaster. And so there we can actually navigate through those archives and find just a file, if that's all we need, and recover that. Our first hope is always to go to the most recent backup and get data from there. And the studies say that 98% of the time when people need to recover, they are going to that most recent backup. But that still means that 2% of the time you probably need to go back into the history, especially if somebody made a change that they don't want to make or had deleted something they didn't intend to delete or whatever. A lot of capabilities there. ARCserve Backup has been around forever. This is one of the original backup solutions, still running strong. Got a lot of great reports in here that people can take advantage of. One of my favorites is the data trend analysis that helps you see how your storage requirements have grown over weeks, months, or years to kind of help you predict how much storage are you going to need in the future. Gives you a lot of capabilities to monitor and manage that environment, as well as do some great stuff with deduplication and archiving. Can drive any kind of tape device. And that's really one of the areas, and Todd was kind of talking about this earlier, you know, having one application for all your needs. We talked to a few folks where, you know, they're running something different in the virtual environment, something different on the physical environment. Here you can run the same product across virtual and physical. You can do that disk-to-disk backup. You can do that disk-to-disk to tape backup or straight to tape, however you want it to be, and it can be custom configured for tons and tons of different criticalities of machines based on what your requirements are. So very flexible and very easy to use, and have it fit your backup requirement needs. This thing's finally loading. Yeah.
So the new version, essentially, that's all going to be in one interface, and then if you need to back up to tape, right, that's that's the only piece that's separate, or is it just the RHA piece?
So hit me with that one more time. Are you talking about the next release?
Next release of ARCserve, yeah.
In the next release, there's going to be one interface that does HA, D2D, and traditional tape-based backups.
Okay. I'm with
Okay.
you. Yep.
Any other questions?
Keep rolling.
All right. So, as I mentioned, tons and tons of different reports. As I said, Data Trend, one of my favorites. If I could actually click on it. There we go. Right. You can run these for all kinds of different scenarios here. You can get all kinds of information about the health on the servers. Different administrators can get different kinds of reports. This stuff can be emailed out to you or out to the appropriate parties, however you want to do it. You can have a lot of different roles. So you can have folks who just run reports. You can have folks who manage this backup environment but not that backup environment. So a lot of different ways you can do it. And if you have multiple backup environments like we do, then you can switch from environment to environment while using one GUI. And so one of the things that I should do to make my life a little bit easier is install this GUI on my local machine so I don't actually have to log in via remote desktop to administer. And then I could switch from environment to environment. I could monitor my jobs. I could see any alerts that I had all up front. Here's a list of my jobs. You can see anything. Oh, see right here, had a crash. So that's something that I'd want to find out about. I can set up alerts so I can get that kind of information. This is also SNMP compatible. So if I'm using like, can't think of any network management systems now, Spiceworks or SolarWinds or one of these, I can have that data dumped into that console so that I can see the alerts there and then come in here to remediate. A backup job can be a server, can be a group of servers. It can be a full system backup on one box, just a file on another. Again, completely configurable for anything that you need. Also has a great feature, and we're hearing more and more folks asking us about this, backup for laptops and desktops. That has a neat little feature where the backup job can get interrupted, and it will resume where it left off when the box resumes. So you're backing up a laptop, that end user closes the lid, unplugs, goes home, goes on the road, whatever. It'll resume when they fire up again. Low bandwidth utilization, so the end users don't notice it. Keep those boxes backed up just like your servers.
Yeah, I like it. And how long does it take to get, when you set this up, does it take a while to get it custom configured for your environment, or what's the...
You know what? Yeah, that's a good question. It really does depend on the environment. We talk to lots and lots of customers. I think we have over 800 backup customers, and everybody's got their own thought process, different environments, different requirements, right? And so I just see guys doing this in so many different ways. And we've got some folks who have very, very complex environments where it takes them a little bit longer to get this rolling. If you really are just trying to get, 5 servers fully backed up, you can really have that job set up in probably less than 10 minutes once you have the software installed. Very easy to do. The more customizable you get, the more you've got, hey, on this box I just want this data set, and I'm doing something completely different over here, right? Then it's going to take you a little bit longer to set up those jobs. All the jobs are editable, though, so as you start creating these and realize, oh, actually, I'm moving this server to this other group, I want that backup to be a part of this job, you can always go in and make modifications without having to reinvent the wheel every time you change up your environment.
Okay. All right.
All right, that covers it. If I didn't cover what you wanted to hear, let your productive rep know. We'd be happy to put on a custom demo for you.
Absolutely. I think, that's the thing, right? You went through a lot of stuff here. There's a lot to see and a lot to think about. A couple things you want to know, right? You're interested now in managed CAP. There's going to be, some fantastic things happening between now and March 31st with ARCserve. You buy today, you are locked in for the new release coming out in April, which is great, and so it's a great time to to be cranking. If you're looking at that, if you're looking, especially managed capacity is really a no-brainer, and the current program they have going is fantastic. One last thing I want to talk to you about is software that we love, CCleaner Network Edition. Right? If you are one of the 1 billion, you have downloaded the free consumer version. This is the pro-grade version. Why is it pro-grade, Pete Greco? Great question, right? Your ability to centrally manage and clean systems, right? Put them in groups, get reports, schedule it, set it, and forget it, right? As opposing to touch individual machines. What's the other technicality? Consumer version isn't technically licensed for the business environment. So we want you to be compliant. That's yet another reason to go pro-grade. We have the full pro-grade, real deal, full trial, full version that you can get from us or get from talking to the account exec. We also have a nice little special with ARCserve. With that, thanks so much for coming today. We know you have a lot of stuff going on in your day. Spending 30 minutes or spending 26 minutes with us is much appreciated. Let us know what you like. Let us know what else you need. Your account exec is going to follow up. Make sure you get your little gift card. If you do need to see a custom demo, work through them. They would love to talk with you specifically about what your recovery needs, what kind of things you're thinking about. We have thousands of customers in this area, and we're willing to share our insights with you. With that, I say, hey, have a fantastic day. I'm Todd Obert, along with Pete Greco from Productive Corporation. Thanks for tuning in. We'll talk soon. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.